The root itself grows through the soil. As the root grows, cells are being added to the root and the root gets longer and longer. There's another part that just sits there and doesn't move around. If we look at this root, we can see that it's growing. So this part from like here to about here is called the root tip. This part, the very, very end of the root, is called the root cap. The root cap protects the very end of the root where the cells are growing. This part right behind the root cap is where those cells are growing. As the plant grows larger, the roots grow to meet the needs of the plant. So this is a vine that I picked out of my yard. So we can see that this has a number of roots on it. And that's the main root right there. The roots bring in water. Now, behind the root tip, you can see these tiny little fuzzy things on the sides of the root. Those are called root hairs, and they're made up of cells. So the cells are formed with little tubes that go out to seek water. The cells come out and elongate to find water. Then they absorb the water and go back inside the root. So if I were to leave these out, you would see that the root hairs, this fuzzy part on the root, would disappear after a little while because there's no water for them to go towards. So, like we've seen, roots have a sensitivity to grow towards water. If, while they're growing towards water, they come to an obstacle, like this tree did, they need to grow around it, which is what the root did in this case. So at some point during the tree's growth, it's dead now, but at some point during its growth, it hit the rock, the root hit the rock, said, oh, that's an obstacle, I need to go around it. And it grew going in the other direction until it was able to come and keep growing. So this also shows roots trying to grow around an obstacle. So what's happened here is that someone has left their plant in a container that is too small. So when the root comes to the edge of the container, it turns and goes in a different direction. And that has happened with all of the roots of the plant. And so if a plant is not moved into a container that is big enough for it, this eventually happens. People who grow bonsai trees sometimes use this to their advantage. So they have arranged the small bonsai plant or tree in such a way that the roots have grown around this rock. So this picture shows what happens when an obstacle is too big for a root to grow around. So weak acids in the soil break down rocks and create cracks in the rock. The root hairs look for these cracks and begin to grow into them. Over time, eventually the root breaks through the rock and is able to continue to grow to get towards water. So the root tip on a root is like the brain of the root. If you cut off the root tip of a root, it will no longer continue to grow outward. It will only grow down. So your follow-up work is on Google Classroom, and I'll see you in our next lesson. Bye for now.